What's going on, Mech Warriors? RJ Base here, and I would like to take a few moments, if I could, to talk about Mech Warrior Online and eSports, and more specifically, Worlds 2018. As most people who play this game are aware, PGI has released the rules for Worlds 2018. Did so on June 4th, 2018. And PGI has taken a big departure from how competitive gameplay in this game is done. You know, for several years now, in leagues like MRBC, RHOD, we had the Star League in 2017, Net Battletech, Battle for Midway, the Safety Set tournament that happened earlier this year. All these different competitive leagues have played the competitive style of this game a certain way, and it's a way that has evolved over time. You know, competitive gaming in MechWarrior Online goes back to 2013. And as the game has grown and evolved, so has the competitive way of playing. But then on June 4th, PGI announced the rules for their big Worlds tournament, which has been happening every year since 2016. And they have completely changed the game. They have completely changed how the competitive scene works in MechWarrior Online. And they have done so for the worse, in my personal opinion. In the rules that PGI has stated for Worlds this year, which again is a complete departure from anything done in competitive play in this game in the past, including PGI's own Worlds tournaments, the new rules state that stock mech mode must be played. This means that no more mech lab will be used. Everybody will be bringing the same mechs to every game. Granted, you'll have some teams that are new to competitive play that want to put their foot in the ring. They probably won't do the same thing, but all the experienced teams, experienced competitive teams that come into Worlds 2018, who have done Worlds before, who've played in MRBC before, they're going to be sciencing the mechs, and they're going to figure out which mechs, out of the limited mechs we have available, are going to be the best ones. And that was the other side of that. Not only can we only play in stock mode, but we have a very limited set of mechs. 39 mechs and prior. So gone will be the extreme long range matches. In will be LERMs. In will be more mid-range and brawl. In fact, we expect to see lots of brawling. And all teams, especially the top level teams, will be bringing the exact same mechs with the exact same loadouts. The mechs are moving slower. So initial engagements and initial time for those brawls and those big battles to happen is going to take longer to get to, especially on some of the bigger maps. By doing this, PGI has taken the last 5 or 6 years of competitive MWO evolvement and said, forget it. We're changing this. We're going to do it our way. All the time and work and all the effort that you guys have put in the past is done. And this is the way it's going to be. So I'd like to make an analogy of what PGI has done here, if I may. Esports are played in many ways similar to how regular sports are played. We form teams. We sometimes trade players. We get new players on our teams that might replace other players who might not be performing as well, just like you would have on a regular sports team. We spend a lot of time, much of our year, in team practices, involved in other tournaments, to hone our skills, to make our team the best that it can possibly be. Just like a sports team does. Take any team in the NFL, and I'm only going to use the NFL analogy here because Russ Bullock is a big fan of the NFL. Don't know why, but he is. Let's say teams for the NFL are getting ready for their preseason. They have their exhibition games, their practices, etc. They're all getting ready for the start of the season. And just like in MWO, the NFL has evolved over time. There's been new rules implemented, new technology implemented, technology to keep the players safer, to determine when a foul has been committed. The way NFL is played today is certainly far different than it was 50, 60 years ago. It's a different game now than it used to be. Some will say for the better, others will say for the worse. But you take the game of if you take that team that's been prepping. I'm from Kansas City, so let's say the Kansas City Chiefs, and they've started their 2018 preseason, let's say, and they're doing their exhibition games against other teams. And then 2 weeks before the season is about to start, the NFL comes back and says, okay, yeah, we're changing the rules. We're going to go back to the 1950 rule set, as well as the same 1950 equipment. And instead of a football, you're going to use a kickball. That's kind of like what PGI is doing to us. We've been doing all this prep. We've been playing in all these leagues, and PGI said, no. We're going to do this instead. So it totally changes the game. All right, let's be clear on how that changes the game, though. Because if we were to take 2018 era NFL pro football, and you were to all of a sudden, at just the start of the season, revert it back to how the game was played in 1950 with the same equipment, the same technology, etc. The basic fundamentals of the game will still be there. How to throw the ball, how to kick the ball in those extremely rare circumstances when they actually do kick the ball in American football. How to all the basics, the basic fundamentals, the plays, all that will be relatively the same. But because of the change in padding, the change in the rules, certain things will be done a lot differently. And there are people out there who would probably love to see that. Really old people or people who obsess about the old school history of the NFL, they would love that. And that's what we're seeing in MWO. The people who love the old school lore, and admittedly, I love the old school lore as well. They love seeing this stock mode thing coming into the game. They love the idea of playing a tournament with the original lore specs. But that style, that way of playing does not represent the true modern era of competitive play in a Mech Warrior game. A stock mech tournament would have been great for a one-off during MechCon. A stock mech tournament would have been a really fun thing to do, or as a funny thing after the main tournament's done. Have those same teams get up there and do a stock mech thing. That would have been awesome. But to take the whole competitive league and flip it upside down like this, that was the incorrect move. doing something like that in the NFL would be unheard of. No one would ever do it because the NFL is the top competitive league for football, American football. Make sure I get my words straight here. The NFL is the top competitive league for American football. People expect to see that high competition play. PGI in the past has said that Worlds is the top competitive league for MechWarrior Online. And teams have put in that effort and gotten those players to be that competitive league. The absolute best teams, the absolute best players at Worlds at the end of the year. It's what we saw in 2017. It's what we saw in 2016. The absolute best teams in the game. And now PGI has said, yeah, you guys have to do it different now. We're changing the rules. We're taking the competitive side out of it. And this is what you have to work with. We no longer, us competitive players, we no longer have the ability to tinker and build the best mechs we can possibly have for the competitive game. No, that's gone. That whole side of competitiveness is gone because the mech lab is half of the competitive scene in this game, and it's gone. To me, again, going back to the NFL analogy, and again, I'm only doing this for Russ. I hope he watches this video. It's like taking an NFL team and saying, yeah, the roster that you have right now is the only roster that you get. You can't trade any more players, can't get rid of any players, pick up any more players. And, oh, yeah, by the way, you don't get to practice either. There's no scrimming. What you have is what you have, and that's what you show up with on the field. Now, I guess that's really not a fair analogy because we still get to practice with our stock mechs, but we don't get all the tools and everything to make our mechs better. So I guess that's really saying we don't get the video reviews and practices. We don't really get to. I'm not trying to think of the best analogy for that, and it's hard when applying to the NFL. I don't really follow the NFL, so I don't really know how they do that stuff there. But they're basically removing half the game. I guess it would be like removing the huddle. Removing the offensive and defensive line coaches. Taking out the technical staff. Yeah, taking out the technical staff and just leaving the game to the players that are on the field. If I guess I was going to try to make that analogy properly. And it feels wrong. It feels wrong in this game. Now, Phil on NGNG TV said that this pays homage to MechWarrior 5, which is coming out at the end of the year.
Yeah, I don't think it's a bad thing. It's different. And of course, with the MechWarrior 5 Mercenaries, I think it's a cool homage, So, I know not everyone's going to be totally thrilled with it. I know not everyone's going to love it. But it's a rule set, and I think it'll be competitive. I think it'll view really well. I think it'll be different in that regard.
This has me worried for two reasons. One, if they're removing the mech lab and only making us play stock mechs in Worlds, and this is to get us used to and to get us accustomed to how MechWarrior 5 is going to be, does that then mean that there's no mech lab in MechWarrior 5? Or if there is, it's an extremely limited one? And then that begs the question, how is anybody producing a MechWarrior game with extremely limited or no mech lab? That, to me, it just seems like a crime. Now, I'm probably wrong in all of this stuff, and I really hope that I am, but that's the way that feels there. And the second The second thing is, I mean, MechWarrior Online is not MechWarrior 5. MechWarrior 5 is in the Unreal Engine, and from the beginning it was said that that's going to be based on the old tech. But MechWarrior Online is a game that has evolved over the years, and now includes all of this new tech, some of which PGI just introduced only a year ago. And they're cutting all that out. They're not letting us play competitive, the top level competitive in MechWarrior Online based off of the actual game MechWarrior Online. They're basing the top tier competitive league, they're basing that off of another game that hasn't even been released yet. Does nobody else see the problem with this? The game that they want us to play for Worlds 2018 is not the game we have. And how is that fair? Now, to be clear on all of this, I don't disagree with the fact that stock mech tourney could be fun. And it could be something that would be very entertaining to watch or participate in at MechCon. MechCon is a great event. I absolutely had a blast at that event last year. And just because of this whole problem with the rules for Worlds 18 doesn't mean I'm going to uninstall the game and quit playing. I'm going to keep playing my favorite game. But in hindsight, at least to me, in hindsight, what PGI should have done here is they should have made a stock tourney as one of the events for MechCon. Separate from Worlds. Keep the Worlds format as it is. Let top tier competitive be top tier competitive. And then maybe when the top tier competition is done, get all three of those teams. I said this before. Get all three of those teams back on the stage again and have them go at it in a stock tournament. Or if they do like they did last year and they bring all the VIP streamers in. That's how I got there last year. Well, that and my Twitch viewers. Make all the Twitch streamers do a stock tournament for shits and giggles. You know, the stock tournament would have been a great one-off event. And maybe as a kind of an introduction to a new tournament style going forward in MechWarrior Online. But not in the middle of a competitive season that's already started like this, when teams have already started playing in MRBC and Battle for Midway, even NBT. Even NBT allows you to customize your mechs, and that is a very, very restrictive competitive game mode or game style. League. Yeah, it's a league. So I think PGI had a good idea here with creating a stock tournament, but not for Worlds. Not for Worlds. It's not a top tier competitive league, and they're certainly removing the eSports from MWO when you remove half the game. This is no longer an esport. It's no longer really a truly competitive thing here, because the game that we're going to be playing at Worlds is not the game that we really play the rest of the time. It's just a small, tiny portion of the game. And again, I am just extremely disappointed with the decision to do that. If you enjoyed the video, if I didn't bore you half to death, please click the like button. Don't forget to subscribe if you like the channel. I got plenty of other videos down there. I try to upload at least a couple videos a month. I know I'm not the most prolific YouTuber out there, but I just got Adobe Premiere yesterday, and this is the very first video I made in it. I'm still learning the program, learning the app. I'm going to continue to learn how to do all those crazy cool things that all the big YouTubers do. So stick with me there, and yeah, I'll catch you all next time, Mech Warriors. Peace.